Now it's time to check in with the chief executive of the online e-commerce giant eBay. Welcome, Jamie Iannone, to the program. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Bob. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Okay, well, I was reading up on eBay, and wow, you really thrived during the pandemic. Obviously, it was a tough time, challenging time, but also you help power the economy. Can you just kind of talk about going into the pandemic? I remember talking to a key lawmaker who was briefed by intelligence officials and said this will probably last a couple weeks. Well, it lasted a couple years, and that was very unexpected. But kind of your thoughts and reflections on lessons learned and going forward.
Yeah, one of the great things about the eBay model is the vast diversity of our seller base. So think, from the smallest, independent seller to small businesses running on the platform. And during the pandemic, I'm really, really proud of how our sellers stepped up during that time period, really making sure that they could be there to provide goods to Americans, frankly, to individuals all around the world during what was extremely challenging times. And so we didn't really have the issues of a choked supply chain or anything like that because of the broad seller base that we have. And what we saw is that people started needing things, first medical equipment that they needed for their homes or for their places of business, to things that they needed when they stayed at home, from laptop equipment and desk equipment to fitness equipment. And then really eBay, people were just taking advantage of their hobbies during that time. So we saw strength in our parts and accessories business as people were fixing up their cars and doing other things during those challenging times. One of the things I'm really proud of is we actually helped distribute PPE during that time. So we used our technology to distribute 6 billion PPE items to people that needed it. So really proud of how our employees here and how our seller community stepped up to get people the things they needed during what was very challenging times.
You recently announced a new Certified by Brand initiative. Can you tell us about that program and why you launched it?
Yeah, this has been an important part of what we've been doing, is working directly with brands so that they can come onto the platform and sell directly. As you look at it, whether that's new items, used items, refurbished items, brands are looking for ways to have access to consumers, looking to have a solution for sustainability and re-commerce. And eBay is the perfect vehicle for them. So as part of the Certified by Brand, they're labeled as such. We stand behind everything that they're doing with eBay Money Back Guarantee. And think of this, Bob, more as a theme of what we're doing, which is really changing the level of trust on the platform. When I got back as CEO 3 years ago, we really started investing in things like authentication. So we now authenticate sneakers, handbag, watches, trading cards, really making sure that the buyer is getting the item that they expected to get. It stops at an eBay facility. And we've really been raising the level of trust on the platform, which has been fantastic. On our refurbished items, we launched a program called eBay Refurbished, which guarantees a warranty on that product, usually a 2-year warranty, 30-day hassle-free returns, and eBay Money Back Guarantee. So think of eBay now as getting values across the spectrum with this higher level of trust and returning back great values to customers.
Jamie, I know you're on TV a lot talking about the economy, and it's interesting talking to lawmakers and talking to business leaders like yourself and trying to gauge where we're going. At the beginning of the pandemic, polls show really an enormous amount of optimism about the economy. But then as it dragged on, those numbers change. What are you seeing? Some are skeptical, some are bullish. What do you see out of the economy in the next 18 months?
Yeah, look, we're certainly in uncertain times and dynamic times right now. Consumer confidence, discretionary income are being impacted by all the things that we've been talking about, right? The geopolitical uncertainty, inflation, rising interest rates, et cetera. So, as we talked about in our last earnings call, we think some of these headwinds will persist throughout the year from that perspective. And what we're doing is controlling what we can control. Because, frankly, challenging times can be a benefit for the eBay platform and for our sellers. So some of our best small businesses on the platform are actually created during tough economic times. I was talking to a seller who during COVID lost his job with the Orlando Magic and turned his time into creating a business on eBay. Back in other challenging times like '08 or '09, tons of stories of people using these times to just start selling on eBay as a way of needing income and then turning that into a small business. I like to call that accidental entrepreneurs that we've created on this platform during these tough times. At the same side, on the buying side, people can find a refurbished item where they might have bought a new item where they need a value because their dollar's a little bit more stretched. So that's what we're seeing on the platform, and that's how we've kind of planned the balance of the year.
And that leads to an audience question, which is related to what you were saying about small business. This is from Bruce Lundegren. He's Assistant Chief Counsel, the U.S. Small Business Administration. Do you see a difference in how large versus small businesses are performing in the current economic climate? You mentioned small business. Do you see a disparity?
Yeah, what we see for small businesses is that they find ways to be resilient on the platform. And in fact, how critical eBay is for those small businesses. So we just did a small business survey, which we released earlier this month. And what we found is that 71% of people said eBay actually helped them start their business, create a small business. And a third of them said their small business wouldn't exist without what eBay has provided for them on the platform. So it shows that eBay really is the face of small business. And one of the things I like to say is, eBay's principle and our mission is about creating economic opportunity for all, so that a small and individual seller can sell right alongside a large seller. And so we look at as our platform as really, raising all boats with small and large sellers. It's why one of the things we're focused on is the 1099K issue of really getting that limit raised. It was lowered to $600 during the American Rescue Plan. And raising that limit back up to a more healthy level will make sure that we can create a lot more accidental entrepreneurs in the future. For the most part, these people aren't making a profit. When you're talking about $600, that's selling, your bikes out of the garage. Mm-hmm. And, you may not have the receipt from that. That was 20 years ago. We want to keep that flywheel of e-commerce working because eBay is the pioneer of e-commerce. And we definitely don't want that friction to mean those products are going to end up in the landfill rather than the hands of a second or third happy buyer for e-commerce. So really think of the work that we're doing as really trying to promote that small business and their success of growing on the platform.
I do want to follow up on that because there has been a lot of confusion, as you know, on the $600 threshold and the IRS action on it. And there was a lot of confusion, certainly during the height of tax season. You mentioned raising that. What do you think that level should be? What would be fair? Is it anywhere near $600?
Well, there's a bunch of bipartisan support now. In fact, there was a bill recently introduced that would raise that level to $10,000 and I believe 50 transactions. And that would actually eliminate about 85% of the incremental millions of tax forms that just eBay would be selling and overloading the IRS with if we even got to that level. So we would be supportive of doing that. And we think, that's that level is kind of appropriate where you start getting into like the really business size that may be making a profit. Before then, there really isn't a whole lot of income and it's just a lot of paperwork. And unfortunately, I think it'll be more products in the landfill rather than driving for e-commerce. So we're really hoping, I see support on both sides to move that forward. And I'm really hoping that can get done this year.
And that is rare that you see both sides or bipartisanship in Washington. The debt limit has to be bipartisan in divided government, but rarely is anything. So you do think that perhaps even this year that could maybe get passed to an appropriations bill that's moving through Congress, or if it doesn't move this year, that because of its bipartisan support, it would move sometime in 2024?
Yeah, look, we're really hoping that it moves this year because otherwise people are going to start getting tax forms at the beginning of next year. So it's really critical. I think, there was a 1-year delay put in place last year because I think both sides on a bipartisan realized that 600 is way too low of a threshold and that this would really kind of impact that entrepreneurship, that small business, and frankly, overload the IRS. So with that support, we really need to get it passed this year with some kind of vehicle, because otherwise those tax forms will have to start going out the beginning of next year. And I think it's really confusing for an individual who sold, $800 of old bike stuff or old stuff out of the garage to get a 1099K and try and figure out what to do with that. It's extremely challenging. And in most cases, they're not going to have a receipt for something they bought 10 or 15 years ago. So really critical that we get something passed with support, with bipartisan support this year.
There are a number of companies that have let employees go. eBay recently let 500 employees go. What's the status of the workforce, and as far as eBay going forward, we both have a kind of a labor problem now, but we also have an aging population that's going to cause real problems 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah, look, one of the great things about eBay's platform is that we create economic opportunity for other people. So it was unfortunate what we went through with layoffs, but overall we'll end up actually with more people than fewer at the start of the year with the hiring that we're doing in key areas of the company. So we're definitely in a business that's focused on cost, but also focused on growing. But more importantly is what we enable. We have 17 million sellers on the platform was the last public number we talked about, and 133 million buyers. And so looking at the opportunities, how do we unlock more of that potential in challenging times? Like I talked about, there are people that, were let go of their jobs, or they need more flexibility because they've got to care for children at home and need flexibility in how they work. I recently was talking to someone who had lost a lot of their funding because they had to pay for the health care of their child, and now they needed a way to make income. And so one of the great things about eBay is that people turn to this platform as a way to make income, and then a lot of them actually turn that into a small business on eBay and end up hiring other people. We've created 1 million jobs on the platform through what the platform does. So not just what we do as a company, but what this platform does to create opportunities for Americans is truly fantastic.
What is eBay doing with AI?
Yeah, we're really excited by the advancements in AI. We've been using AI for many, many years. You can't run a platform like we run. We have 1.8 billion live listings, like I talked about, 133 million buyers, without using AI to help people find things that they need on the platform, to help create better experiences and recommendations and things like that. But one thing I'm excited to talk about is that we actually have a test out there in beta right now that our sellers are using, where we'll actually write the description for them. So say, for example, I found an old garage door opener for a garage door opener, for a garage door opener I no longer have. I didn't really know what it was, but eBay was able to figure out what it was, write the whole description, and I sold that product for $25 to someone who needed that garage door remote. Now, that product would have ended up in the landfill without really using tools like AI to create this amazing, magical experience on eBay, where this thing just automatically writes the description of that garage door remote. And so what I'm excited by is what AI is going to do to unlock for our sellers the ability to bring more of that inventory onto the platform. The average household, Bob, has $4,000 worth of items that they can sell on eBay, and less than 20% of that is currently online. So the ability to use new AI technologies to make that even easier on the platform gets me excited for what we'll do for e-commerce, what we'll do for creating even more small businesses in the next decade.
You must have a lot of anecdotes, but I want you to pick the best one, because I imagine when you go around meeting people around the country and you tell them your position at eBay, you get some feedback. Can you describe what that's like?
Yeah, you know what? I love feedback. I hear great stories. My dentist told me, he's in there with my teeth and fixing me up, and he's like, during COVID, Jamie, I had less dental appointments, so I started fixing up my car with your parts and accessories business. And he's like, now you keep recommending more parts. I've now bought like 12 different parts because he's restoring this old vehicle. And he's like, I love what you're doing in parts and accessories. And parts and accessories is an example of a category that we're investing in. It's a key focus category for us. We're growing at market rates of growth now, and we're able to have buyers like him really fuel their passion through what we're doing. But I also love critical feedback. The best ideas of things that we do on the platform come from our community, either our community of sellers or buyers. Last year, our sellers told us we needed to improve the number of pictures that we have on the platform, because people buying handbags want to see every stitch, every corner, and see exactly what's in there. And so we made it easier to put up 24 pictures for free, and then we added videos to the platform. So now you can take a video of those products, and we're working on new 360 technology. So that feedback is so critical, and I love being out there in sellers' place of business, hearing their thoughts, and then bringing them new innovations to help them grow on eBay.
Jamie Iannone, CEO of eBay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Bob, for having me on.